Welcome to Haunting Live Podcast, a place where we bring a new paranormal guest each episode to share their journey and experience. For more Haunting Live real experiences, be sure to follow us on our social, on Instagram, Facebook, and also Blue Sky. And don't forget to also check us out on our official website, HauntingLivePodcast.com.
Hey, Haunting Live fans, it's me, your girl, Yolanta Meri, and I've got another fantastic episode for you today. Today, I've got BRITTANY SCHMIDT with me, and you might know her from It's Brittany Bewitched on Instagram, Facebook, or TikTok. I gotta be honest with you. This is the second time we have tried to record this episode. Brittany is so awesome. The first time I tried recording this episode with her, we spoke for 2 hours and ran out of time. So we're really trying to put a great one for you today with the awesome Brittany. Hello, Brittany.
Hello. Thank you.
So Brittany, in case people didn't know about you, you are not just a psychic medium, but you do a few different kinds of Reiki, and you've got like a super cool oracle deck. Tell me about it.
I love my oracle deck. I'm super biased. It is the Conscious Creatures Oracle. It is something that I created as inspiration from the very first deck that I ever purchased, which is the Spirit Animal Oracle deck by Colette Baron-Reid. It's the only one that I've ever used in my practice outside of, the odd time where you gravitate towards something else just that day. So I sat with it for a really long time, and I thought, you know what? I need to make my own conscious creatures. So it is all Canadian animals, or Canadian animals that live in Canadian/other waters, basically. We've got a wolverine, white squirrel, which is up by my cottage, which is near the Grand Bend area. There's a bunch of white squirrels there, which are really cool. There's just a whole bunch of different animals in this deck, but they have really great messaging. They've got some journal prompts that come with them, and then what I call divine declarations, which is just another fancy word for affirmations. They're a really great deck to use to connect to your intuition, which is something that I also teach. So I have a course called Lean In, Spark Your Senses, which is where I help others tune into themselves. And then I have another course called Hello from the Spirit Side that is just wrapping up right now. I'm actually teaching a class on it this afternoon where we are doing psychic detective work on cases that were solved so that my students can practice leaning into understanding, murders and helping potentially in the future should they decide they want to take their mediumship practice there. So I really do teach quite a lot of things. I'm a sound bowl healer. I have resonance breath work is one of the things that I also teach. So this is blissed out breath, a course that brings you basically into homeostasis in your body using your lungs and your heart so that you are in a space and place where you are in the right brainwave state to receive from spirit and receive messages for yourself. So Holy Fire Reiki is what I currently teach. I was trained in 1, 2, and Masters in S7E4, and then I got Holy Fire Reiki, and then now I've recently gotten Karuna Holy Fire Reiki, which is basically the end of the road in terms of the Reikis that are available that I can learn from the International Center of Reiki Training. And I'm obsessed. Holy Fire Reiki completely changed the way that I view Reiki in general. It is a connection directly from you to source energy so that you are not having sort of we'll call it energetic debris from the attunement when you receive your S7E4 attunement. Not that there's anything wrong with that. The Holy Fire Reiki just kind of next leveled it for me. It feels very expansive. It's helped me work through a lot of my shadowy shit. So I really do. I love all the things, but teaching Holy Fire Reiki and mediumship are probably the favorite things that I do outside of probably group mediumship sessions. I used to do a lot of restaurants and events where there were 40, 50 people. And those were also a lot of fun because you get to connect with a bunch of different spirits. As you know, my friend, who is also a medium, how much fun that can be.
You know what? I personally, I love my one-on-ones, but group readings, there's so much energy in a group reading.
I'm flying by the end of the night. Honestly, I'm jittery almost, where I have to come and I'll sit in my car probably for a half an hour after a group reading to really come back to self and to clear using my Holy Fire Reiki all the energies that need to be released, we'll say. They're fun. I do really love the one-on-one sessions as well, especially the business session. So I have a session where you can tune in for yourself and your business, which is really neat because you can tune into the energy of somebody's business. So I do love those as well, but the group ones, I don't know. My human design is a projector, a self-projected projector, and the spaces that I'm meant to be in are markets. So it kind of makes sense that group mediumship reading is where I really enjoy.
Okay, I gotta ask, if you're not a medium and you haven't done it, maybe you've gone to sit to a group reading and you get, you hear the messages that are for other people. Maybe you get a message during a group reading, and that's really amazing. I've sat in on somebody doing a group reading before, and it was really cool. But as a medium, very different experience. And there are a couple quirky things that happen to some mediums. For me, when I first started doing group readings, I'd be like a flat pancake the next day, just completely exhausted from the high of the group reading the day before. But the other weird thing for me is I get really, really hungry after group readings.
Yes.
Do you have that too?
Oh my gosh, like all the snacks in the car on the way home. So I used to read at this restaurant in Tilsonburg, and I would literally stop at their A&W on the way home. It's like 11 o'clock at night. I don't eat at that time normally. Mm-hmm. But yeah, all the things. It's like an empty pit because you've expelled so much energy reading, and I can appreciate the feeling exhausted the next day. I definitely had to almost change my intention when I was starting, where I would sit in a room by myself for probably like 20 minutes before they called me out. And I would say, like, I'm setting the intention that I use only the amount of energy necessary rather than sort of like depleting myself, because the first 3 that I did, I was demoed for like 3 days afterwards. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? Now I've been doing it for a little bit longer. Generally, I don't get flattened.
Yeah, good.
Often anymore. Most of the time it's maybe a little bit more high than I was the day before. So it does change, but that hunger does not go away. And this is like a hunger like you haven't eaten in a week kind of a hunger.
It's wild. It's totally wild. Or I find like sometimes when I used to teach Reiki, like Usui Reiki, I would actually get sick after. So I would teach it, and because I'm, blowing on people's hands and putting the symbols in using the violet's breath, that was the reason why Usui I think was never really the fit for me. Where with the Holy Fire Reiki, people's attunements are now called placements, and they are connecting directly to source energy through a meditation, which is really cool. So that really helped for some of the exhaustion that I used to feel through that, because I got sick like 2 or 3 times after teaching it. So I was very grateful when I found out that Holy Fire offered this meditative experience instead of the violet's breath.
That, you know what? I'm just a Usui master. Yeah. I don't have my Holy Fire. I haven't had that experience with the like doing other people's attunements, but I've had that experience while giving Reiki to people who maybe had a lot of trauma that they've repressed in certain parts of their body, where I've felt physically sick while doing Reiki. Does that go away with the Holy Fire as well? Just in case we have some Reiki practitioners thinking maybe, I can expand my Reiki in a different way.
So I've also felt that. And I'll say this, you'll still somatically feel what they felt, but the exhaustion that can come from it, I don't have that at all with Holy Fire. I've never walked away from Holy Fire anything and felt exhausted, which is wild, because you can really rock yourself, depending on what that person has going on. I remember doing Reiki on someone, and I said, we were talking about her friend, and all of a sudden I felt these like stabbings in my heart. Mm-hmm. And I said, was your friend stabbed? And she's like, yeah, she got stabbed by her partner 3 times. And I said, in these 3 areas? And she's like, yeah. Where with Holy Fire, like the aftermath of that, I don't feel at all. Like it's quite beautiful in the sense that it almost feels more protective, if that makes sense. And it really burns away in a like kind and loving way, anything that doesn't serve. So you'll often get tingles. You have a lot more, in my experience, everyone's different, like somatic expression, but not in a way that makes you feel exhausted in any way. It's really, really cool. I also think it depends where your own energy's at before you start, right? I mean, if I'm having a day where I'm about to get my period and I'm exhausted, the chances are I'm going to feel that a lot more than a day when I'm in my luteal and I'm living life, Or no, not luteal, ovulation.
So for people that maybe aren't attuned to Reiki and are maybe considering going for Reiki, part of this actually can be a little bit like, I don't know, how am I going to say this? We're talking about, because we know that we're blending our energies to a certain extent with our client, with our sitter. So what that means is if you're going to go see someone who is going to do Reiki on you, or who is going to maybe do some mediumship with you, this is where your own discernment comes in play. And it's really, really important. If you get weird vibes about someone, or there's, some offness, they're going to be mixing their energy in with you. And you might pick up bits and pieces of that practitioner.
And this is where I love what you said about discernment. You want a sovereign channel. And what I've seen is people their gifts can come online, and that's wonderful. And they can get messages, that's true. But how are they managing their own energy? And this is where mediumship becomes a lifestyle. And this is what I've been kind of explaining on my Instagram recently, where I'm encouraging my students, because I have a boutique business builder add-on for my mediumship course, because the thing I walked away with was like, I didn't know how to start a mediumship business after the fact. And what I'm teaching them is you need to actually build your business around your lifestyle, not build your lifestyle around your business. Because if your energy is running amok because you're not caring for yourself well, or you're not sleeping well, or you aren't eating properly, that affects your channel. And when it affects your channel, it affects your client's experience with you. And so your sovereignty within self as a psychic medium, you have a responsibility, an ethical responsibility to your clients, if they're paying you large sums of money, which they do, to make sure that you are holding yourself accountable for how it is that you want to show up in that space and place. And like you said, there are some people who are sort of, at the risk of sounding ignorant, fly by the seat of your pants. And there are others who are very particular about how they conduct themselves. For example, I've said no to people where I know that the energy exchange with somebody that I'm going to read for is going to affect me, right? Mm-hmm. We are sharing some pretty dark places and spaces with people when we're talking about mediumship, because it's not all love and light. People that have passed on are not all love and light when they were here. So we share messages that are real versus what we think you want to hear, right? The whole point of being a medium is to share what comes through. Our job is not to sugarcoat it for you. It's to deliver the message in the way that it was received. And in order to do that, we need to make sure that our channel is as clear and clean as possible. So like you said, if you are feeling that the vibes are off, maybe ask some questions, right? Like how do you care for your own energy? Or, what kind of energetic exchange can I expect to experience? So myself, for example, when I learned Holy Fire, I integrated it into my mediumship so that each time that I'm sitting with someone, I have invoked Holy Fire Reiki in my throat chakra specifically, so that anything that passes through my throat chakra isn't draining to the person that's receiving it and hearing it, to ensure that when they walk away, they actually feel lighter, so that we've processed some of that energetic trauma that they've been through, losing a loved one, experiencing grief, what have you, so that they're in a position after the fact that they feel good rather than drained. Because mediumship sessions can be very draining, right? If you're on the receiving end and you're talking about a loved one who maybe wasn't always kind to you, or whatever comes up, right? It can be some things that need to be acknowledged in your life. I want to make sure that the person walks away feeling good. And this is where, for me, Holy Fire becomes blended, like you said, with my mediumship practice.
Well, and that too, like we're with that, and then our energies kind of mix between the two. So we end up picking up maybe a little bit from our client, but our client's picking up a little bit from us. And I've met practitioners who maybe didn't care for their energy, or didn't maybe clear their own psychological stuff. And that's something that the client can pick up. So if you're feeling like off about your practitioner, my beautiful listeners, find a different one.
Yes. For the love of God.
Exactly. Because then it becomes maybe a little bit bigger of an issue for you. Now, Brittany, I know that when we were talking, and you were talking about how you do your mediumship training.
Yeah.
You don't let people just pop into the spirit world. You actually have a very different methodology, so that way people are a lot more prepared to connect with spirit, and actually that's going to create them to be a better practitioner, ready to serve in a very different way. Do you want to talk a little bit about your methodology when it comes to mediumship?
I sure do. I'm like exploding. Thank you for asking this question, because when I created this course, I was so intentional. When I learned, I took a course, it was 6 weeks, and it was very informational. And then you had the experiential piece where you were practicing on one another. And it was great for what it was at the time. What I wished I had is what I've now created. So in the first week, my students come in and I walk them through a Holy Fire Reiki experience for each chakra that they have, to clear any energetic crap, any debris that they're bringing to the table right out the gate. And if at any point during the course they feel like they need to go back and really cleanse and clear something that is feeling stuck or ick or what have you, they can do that. Then I walk them through the understanding of what it is that they need to know. So obviously you need to understand the clairsenses, what they are, how to connect with them, how they can show up for you. So we have a 7-day meditative experience for them to connect with each clair. And we set the intention before they go into meditation to connect with this particular clair, and then write in what's called their psychic diary about what it is that they experienced. Then we connect them with their breath. And this is the absolute coolest part for me.
Are you looking for that hard to find item, spiritual item that your loved one wants to always get, but you don't know right where to check out? Why not check us out here underneath HauntingLivePodcast.com. Underneath our store, though, we actually have tons of items, from dream catchers, crystals, so many more for you. Check us out underneath HauntingLivePodcast.com.
I have learned something called resonance breathing. So this is a tool that athletes, professional athletes, actually use to pendulate between their sympathetic nervous system, which is when you're activated, and your parasympathetic nervous system, which is when you're in your rest and digest. And a lot of people who are attracted to the spiritual realm often bring with them a lot of trauma. That's just part of our life, right? Everybody has their bits and pieces of trauma that they've experienced. With that, we move through this resonance breath work where they learn to breathe at a very specific rate for them that feels good in their body, and brings them around the 6 breath per minute mark. With that, it creates homeostasis between your heart and your lungs. Homeostasis means essentially like coherence. And they are able to tap into different realms because their brainwave state moves them into theta rather than alpha or beta. Sometimes you can get as low as delta, which is usually when you're sleeping. You want theta because you want to be sort of actively awake, but then also, in the zone where you are not distracted by your own thoughts. So we do this blissed out breath is what I've called it. It's a completely separate course you can take on its own if you're not interested in the spiritual piece of things. If you have trauma or triggers that you want to move through, you can use that. But in this course specifically, we learn the blissed out breath. And with that, my students are able to tune into their own somatic experience. And it's called interoception, where you're able to feel inside your body what's going on. A lot of us have been conditioned out of interoception because we are not in touch with our bodies or not in touch with our feelings, right? We might scroll, we might eat our way through their feelings, right? That's what I like to do. Rather than actually feel your feelings. So blissed out breath is encouraging you to feel your things so that when you are in a situation with your client, not only do you have the coherence in your brain to tap into spirit because you're in a theta brainwave state, but you've also moved through your own trauma, right? You've created safety in your body, in your subconscious mind, for you to tune into spirit, which is beautiful because many people are terrified of tuning into spirit because of what you see in the media, or maybe you had an experience with spirit when you were young and it was scary because you were little and it was dark. So we move through all of those things in a somatic experience using blissed out breath to ensure that your channel is as sovereign as it absolutely can be. Then we layer in clearing your energy, grounding your energy, protecting your energy, and I actually have my students create their own code of ethics. And this is something I was not taught, and I will be honest with you, it is probably the pride and joy of the entire course because my expectation of my students is high. They have a quiz that's 35 questions long that they have to pass in order to get their certificate, because I want to make damn sure that I am sending the right people out into the world to do this work, because these are sensitive subjects we're talking about, and I don't take that lightly. So we layer in this piece where they create their code of ethics. So each time before they open their channel, they look at their code of ethics, then they clear, ground, and protect themselves. Then they move into their blissed out breath. And from their blissed out breath, then they are encouraged to do a meditation, about 10 minutes, just breathing at your own rate afterwards, because you've already brought your nervous system into a rest and digest place. And from there, they start to receive. And when I tell you that this has organically created mediums like nothing I've ever seen in my life, I don't even let them touch the actual evidential or the mental or the trance mediumship until 10 weeks in. And I'll be honest with you, some of my students were a little irritated because they're like, well, I'm not learning about actual mediumship. And I said, your foundation is going to be so solid. You can't build a house on a mud pile. I used to be a real estate agent. So in my mind, I fixed crack basements with my dad as an entrepreneur for years. I have seen all the cracks in the foundation that you can possibly imagine, and lots of water coming in. That's not my intent here. We are going to build such a solid foundation that when you build the rest of the house, it's easy. Everything's square. Everything looks fantastic. And then it's a joy to build. So they are then in a position at around the 10-week mark that they learn about what is mental mediumship, what is evidential mediumship, what is trance mediumship, how can they blend together, what is psychic versus a medium, and can you be a psychic and a medium? Well, yes, you can. Can you just be a medium? Yes, you can. Like there are, we go through all these different things that they have available, and we teach the actual modality itself. The coolest part that they've realized is that they've already been doing it for the last 10 weeks. They've already been tuning in. They've already been getting messages, but they've been getting messages for themselves instead of messages for others. So that when they are in a position where they're reading for others, they can also intuitively have knowings for themselves. And that's another thing that I didn't learn, was how to tune in for myself first. I'm great at tuning in for everyone else, but my own shit, good luck. I got to call Yolanta and get her to figure stuff out for me, because I'm going to miss it. I'm just kidding. Now I'm at the point where I can get it. But at the beginning, that part was missing for me. So I wanted to ensure that my students were starting from a really solid place and foundation so that they are as confident as can be. So the very last portion of the course, which is what I think sets it apart from others, is that we move through your subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind is what can block you from tuning into spirit, because you have religious trauma. You have had it conditioned into you that it's not safe for you to tune into spirit. You may have fears around what might come through. You may have fears around, getting it wrong or making mistakes. So what I've created using, I forgot to mention at the beginning, I have a master certification in subconscious mind techniques. So this was like a double program I took. It was about 15 months worth of subconscious mind work at a practitioner level, and then I took the master certification, which was like an additional 6 months. It's glorious work. It absolutely blows my mind. So I take all my students on a timeline experience where they look from a distance to ensure that it's trauma informed at their experiences with spirit and where they felt fear, sadness, anger, hurt, guilt, shame. And from this distance on their timeline, we're able to observe the exact moment when they thought that it was unsafe for them to tune in. And then we're able to let go of all the feelings because we're not in it. We're just observing it. And we pull learnings from it. So what were you meant to learn? Well, I was meant to learn that I'm actually safe to tune into spirit. I was meant to learn that my channel is sovereign. Whatever comes up for them during this experience, they are then able to let go of all the associated feelings, which then change their identity and bring them into a place where not only have we done all the work on the physical level with their body, on the mental level with their understanding how science and spirituality blend, but then their subconscious mind is now in a position where they have changed their belief system. Oh, wait, I actually do know how to tune in. Oh, wait, yes, I actually have done this in the past. And the whole purpose of the psychic diary this entire time, which we're using, is to build what's called your evidence procedure. So your brain is so magical that it will create a procedure inside your mind where if you get something wrong and you get something wrong again and you get something wrong again, you create a belief system around that. Well, I suck because I've gotten this wrong 3 times. But guess what? You can use your subconscious mind to do the opposite. Hey, I did just get that right. that was accurate when I was talking to the other student. This did come through for me and happen. We are creating this psychic diary worth of evidence procedure the entire time that you are working with spirit in this 16-week course. And the beauty of it is you've now also learned the language that spirit uses to speak to you, because each of us as mediums, we receive metaphors, we receive images, we receive, sounds. Spirit speaks to each one of us differently using the clairsenses. So now they've learned how spirit speaks to them directly, and the fact that they've been a medium all along. This whole journey where they thought that they were just dragging their feet and doing all these meditations for no reason at all other than Brittany told me to do it. I'm just kidding. They've been doing it all along. So by the time we get to the actual practice around the 10-week, my mediums are incredible. Like, I sit there after and I'm in awe of how accurate they are, how clearly they receive, how beautifully put the messaging is, and the fact that they are completely trauma aware with the people that they're speaking to and the way that they talk to one another. And I think the most beautiful part is how unique each and every one of them communicate the messages that come through, right? There's some that are like, this is a sensitive subject. Would it be okay if I shared about this? The fact that we created this code of ethics right at the beginning and that it's always top of mind because the process and the template that we've created is rock solid. They've created it themselves. You've got the buy-in, right? Because you're the one that created this beautiful thing for yourself. So when you go out into the world and you're reading other people, it's easy because your foundation is so solid. So it's funny because, the people who were like, wow, this has taken a really long time are the same ones that circled back around and were like, I am so grateful for the way that you set this up, because I feel so confident walking out of this course that I can tune into anyone. I have one student in particular. I love her. She's an osteopath. She gets everything about people's bodies. She knows everything that's going on with them intuitively. And it's wild to hear her deliver messages because she's using that somatic experience she has within herself. And because she's done so much clearing and prepping and, protecting of her own energy, she is now so sovereign that it's easy for her to pick up on other people's stuff and then not walk away feeling like she got hit by a truck. Because at the end of their sessions, the expectation is that you come out of it the same way you went in. You let spirit know that you're finished. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. Off you go. And then, clear. Then you ground and re-protect yourself. And then you're walking around the rest of the day feeling like tickety-boo because you just gave a killer session. And you haven't drained your entire energy bank, which is really important to me because I know, like you said, depending on what you're reading for, it can be a very draining experience. So then if you throw in Holy Fire, which most of my students so far have also been Holy Fire trained by me, you can ground and protect your energy using the Holy Fire Reiki as well. I'm obsessed. Obviously, I'm so excited that you asked me this question. I just went on like a 15-minute tangent. So thank you, everyone, if you listened till the end. I appreciate you very much. This course has taken me almost a year to build. And I'm so excited. In September, I will be offering another round. I'm just finishing up the Boutique Business Builder right now with my students, where we focus on creating a business that suits you versus what everybody else wants. And I'm getting them to think about things in a different way because I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10. And what I've noticed is that a lot of people will price themselves based on the industry or based on what other people are pricing themselves as, instead of what their actual goals are and what their actual capacity is. So when I think about my own business, my dream business, I'm working 3 days a week and that's it. And I do, maybe 3 mediumship sessions and I do my teachings and that's all I'm working. So how can I price that to meet my monthly goals or the monthly needs of what I have to attain, we'll say, or the abundance I need to run my lifestyle the way that I'm looking to run it, and ensure that when I meet with my clients that I'm potent as fuck, because that is the beauty of charging your worth. If I charge this number, which is high, I'm not going to lie, what am I able to do with all the remainder of my time in that week to ensure that when I do meet with somebody, my energy is clear, my channel is rock solid because I was able to feed myself well, I was able to get the sleep that I needed, and I took the necessary breaks instead of stuffing everybody in back to back to back. Have you ever been for, like, let's say a treatment of some kind, you're going in for a facial, and you're sitting in the waiting room, and you can see that people are just being like shoveled in and out, and the turnover is so fast. Do you ever wonder to yourself, like, what is going through the person's mind that is actually treating me right now? Did they even have time to go to the bathroom or to nourish themselves or take a drink? And then as a result, by the time you get to the end of the day, that person's likely exhausted. And that's what happened at the beginning. I was charging very little, and I would do, 5 sessions a day. Well, I'm a projector in human design. We need a lot of rest. We're potent when we speak, but you need a lot of rest in between times. So understanding that design for me, mixed with the fact that I wanted to live a very flowy lifestyle, what I did was I created my monthly goal, and then I created how often realistically I could work and be as potent as fuck. And then I came up with my pricing based on that. And that to me is important because I want to make sure that when I show up for people, I'm as solid as can be. Because guess what? When I show up as solid as can be, that person is going to ripple effect everything out to whoever it is that they speak to, which creates a referral-based business instead of me counting on Instagram for people to drop into my DMs and book sessions with me. My business is referral. Almost everybody that comes into my space or place is referral. And I love that because as a real estate agent previously, that's what I did. I worked on the connections and the relationships. In this case, the connections and relationships to spirit and with my clients to ensure that when somebody has an experience with me, they walk away so satisfied that they brag to somebody else. And in order to do that, I have to make sure that I'm paid well up front. And I'll be honest with you, not everybody likes my payment structure. Not everybody likes the hours that I work. But I know that this is what's best for me in order for me to show up as the best possible channel for everyone else. So I hold the boundary and I hold the line. And do people pick a different medium as a result? Sometimes, sure. But I'm not worried about that because I also know that the universe is going to bring me exactly who I need. And that's what I love. I also teach my students that if they are not feeling well, or if they're in a position where their energy is really off one day, I'll tell them, you don't meet with your client, you reschedule. And they're like, but what about the money? What about the money? It's going to be terrible, right? Like, yes, they paid you. Yes, you feel like you have to show up, but that's your people pleasing, right? So breathe through that. Use your blissed out breath to breathe through that to create safety in your body for you to say to somebody, I'm not in a space to read for you today. I want to make sure that your experience is so amazing that when you walk away, you love what happened between us, and I can't do that for you today. If you can hold those boundaries with yourself, you will be so much more respected by the people that you are reading for because they know that you care about them. They know that you are taking care of yourself, and if you're not able to take care of yourself because you have kids in school and they make you sick, that they're not going to be shortchanged as a result. Maybe they're disappointed for 10 minutes, but if they actually sit with it, they're like, wow, that is a solid professional human being. And that's what I aim to create in the world in terms of the impact of this course and the mediums that I was going to say releasing into the wild.
It feels that way.
And that's, I want to make sure that they're in a position where when I'm not available to answer questions for them, they have everything that they need already within themselves. And that's the whole point, right? Each and every person we read for, each and every person that comes through this course, we all have these gifts within ourselves. It's just a matter of taking the time to understand them, understand your body and the way that it works, understand, your trauma and where you came from and how it's affecting you now. And then once you've sorted through those things, that's where you become an embodied, grounded medium. And there are many that aren't. And I refuse to be part of that.
That is a wonderful way to be. And there are so many courses that are very different from what you described, where really you feel a little bit more unprepared going in, unprepared, maybe receiving messages, feeling like your feet are against the fire. So this is a very different way, a different approach that, like you said, builds something that's solid, builds something that someone can feel a lot more comfortable with, and also maybe not fear the process. Because when you don't really have that foundation, then the whole process still stays scary. And that's just not really fair, because especially when we're popping into like the spiritual realm, there's so many different layers, there's so much nuance. And then of course, there's so much folklore around different forms of spirituality as well, that in itself can be frightening to people. So having that foundation, really, really important. I I tell people all the time that the best thing that they can do is learn mediumship themselves. So if y'all are looking to do some mediumship, this is what you should be learning from. Because it's going to make a huge difference. Your learning curve is not going to be as steep and harrowing if you have this type of foundation.
And my learning curve was probably, honestly, it took me 2 years to leave my real estate business to move into this full time, because I did not have the confidence, because I didn't have the solid foundation that I needed. And with it, this course in particular, I have a community on my website where all my students can come in. They can see all the replays of any video that we've had. They can ask questions if they need. It's a space for them to also bounce ideas off of one another. Like, oh, hey, I just had this experience with someone. Like, what are you guys thinking? Can we connect on here? It really creates a playing ground of making it fun, but also extremely grounded. And I would hate for people to fly by the seat of their pants, because you're literally holding somebody's grief in your hands.
Yes.
And what a beautiful what a beautiful gift for you to be given. And that's a lot of trust. And for me, because I was a real estate agent and I had to ensure that I had a really high level of ethics there, I think of this no differently, right? That was hundreds of thousands of dollars we're dealing with. This is somebody's loved one. Like, you can't replace that. Hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can replace that, no problem. But the messages that are coming from this person in spirit, that is not something that you want to cause harm with. So by ensuring that you are solid in your practice, it really creates enough space enough space for you to take the time to become accurate. And the thing I love the most about it is, with the blissed out breath, if you're ever reading for someone and you're feeling overwhelmed, or you're starting to notice your own nervous system getting activated, all you have to do is close your breath, or close your eyes and breathe at that rate that is specific to you, that feels good, and it will calm your nervous system within 1 to 2 minutes. And you're right back down to ground zero. And because we've practiced it so often, it's second nature. It is muscle memory. All of a sudden you're tuned back in, no problem. And that, I think, is really important, because when you're out in the wild doing readings, there's a lot of things you can't account for. Even this course, right? As much as I've tried to prepare people, they're going to come across things that weren't discussed or weren't covered, because we've covered 80%, and then there's still that human factor out there that you just can't prepare for. So, making sure they have a space that they can come back to as well to ask questions about that.
That is absolutely beautiful, Brittany. Now, I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch, so I want to respect that. And I just want to remind everyone that's listening, Brittany has the most beautiful deck of oracle cards. If you're curious what they look like, please pop onto any of her social media. She shows cards all the time. The artwork is divine, as well as all of the messaging and the animals that are used. Canadian, which is super cool. And then check out her courses as well. And Brittany, where can everybody find you?
So my website is BrittanySchmidt.ca, BrittanySchmidt.ca, or it's Brittany Bewitched, BEWITCHED, on Instagram, on Facebook. And I'll be honest, I don't use TikTok that often. I probably should spend more time on there, but for whatever reason, I just don't. So it's there, but if you send me a message on there, I'm probably not going to get it. So Instagram is where I am most frequently, or my website. By all means, you can reach me there, and I look forward to connecting with anybody that is interested. And Yolanta, you are just lovely. I love spending time with other like-minded mediums. I often appreciate them on a whole other level, because not everybody is similar, despite what you might think in the spiritual realm. So to connect with somebody who is like-minded is just so comforting. So thank you for being yourself.
Thank you, Brittany. And I look forward to speaking to you for hours off.
That we will. Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Love it.
So thank you again. And all my beautiful Haunting Live fans, I really hope you enjoyed this one.
Take care, guys.
Miss one of our episodes? Replay your episodes on Rhode Island Broadcasting. Show your support for Haunting Live by supporting our broadcast partner, Rhode Island Broadcasting. Find them on YouTube.